Peter in Cramlington, and Greg in Lincolnshire, and Martin in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Martin, go on.
I'd just like to say that the only people who should be apologising today are the black community. The facts are that a mixed-race jury have overwhelmingly vindicated the police's actions. None of them, after hearing 3 months of evidence, have come to the view, contrary to the victimhood approach of Angela, that he was executed. And I was in Birmingham on both nights of the riots, in the city centre, and I went out on both nights, and I wanted to see the composition of the people who were rioting, and the majority of them were black. And I actually went out deliberately because I wanted to know what was going on and who was rioting.
Well, that could be socio-economic. It's
why weren't the Chinese out then?
Well, perhaps.
Why weren't Hindu Asians out in proportionate numbers?
Mark in Finsbury Park, do you want to come in here?
Yes, Mickey, I've been waiting a very long time.
I'm sorry for that.
But, look, the thing is, the riots are another issue which I'm not saying they should be ignored, but the point is, we're talking about police killing members of the public. Mark Duggan, I'm sure, was not an innocent man in the sense that he was a criminal. But at the end of the day, the point that I originally phoned up to make was that there's no need for the police to shoot to kill. And I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed. What is it? Best part of 1,000 people have died in the last 20-odd years in contact with the police, and I think that's an outrageous figure. That we don't ever seem to hear about the police being committed for manslaughter when they do shoot these people. Obviously, some of them are criminals. Some of them have got guns. Sometimes they're firing. But a lot of the time, they're not. And they shouldn't be allowed to just shoot people in cold blood. If they want to kill these people, why don't they come out and say it? Why don't they come out and say they wanted to kill Mark Duggan, they wanted to take him out? Fine. At least then we'd know where we stood. They'd be honest. But all this illusion about a jury and all this other stuff, I'm sorry, it's like that jury has been got at just to...
How's the jury being got at?
A convenient verdict that
how is that jury being nobbled?
How do you know it hasn't been nobbled? Sorry, how do you know it hasn't been nobbled?
Well, on that basis...
And what about all the other times? What about all the other police? What about all the other people
whole
who have
thing
been
was
shot?
a sham.
It is. Can I just say at this point, it's an outrageous allegation to say a jury has been nobbled, and a potentially dangerous one. I'm just warning you, my friend. I'm warning you, my friend. It's a potentially dangerous one. David Lammy, the MP for Tottenham, made the point, and he was very quick to make the point. He emphasised it, that it was a jury that looked very much like London. Now, if you're saying, as Angela said previously, and she was well within her rights to do so within the parameters of this debate, if you're saying that you do not feel that the proper evidence and the proper context of the evidence was presented to the jury, that's one thing. To say the jury is nobbled is quite another. Peter's in Cramlington. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Nicky. I'm amazed about this. I can't understand which part of violent, wanted criminal marks this guy out to be the next pope. He was the 48th most wanted criminal in Europe.
According to
I think the police have done us a favour.
One assessment, but you know that was on their intelligence. But in that situation, you'd have done in the situation of that marksman, you'd have done the same thing.
Definitely. If I thought he had a gun and he was going to use it, I would have shot him. And not like the previous caller said, shoot to kill policy. What did you expect the police to do? Shoot him in the big toe so he limps away?
Charles, come on.
Yeah, I think on the point about the jury, it's perfectly legitimate to respect the various different conclusions that the jury came up with, but actually to see the contradiction that the public or some sections of the community are highlighting. Now, I think what needs to happen is that I think police-community relations needs to take a much higher profile within government and within the police leadership. I think that's what causes the problem many times, is that people, certainly the black community, which you've heard in the program, seem to feel a kind of a pent-up anger. And a lot of it is historical, and I think that many of the avenues that the community had, to certainly post-Lawrence, to bring these issues on the table and have them discussed at the very, very highest level. Many of those avenues have closed off. So
but for that reason, they've been frustrated. I completely understand what you're saying. Greg in Lincolnshire, sorry to have kept you.
Yeah, right. Everybody's missing the point. The point is, and no one can argue, the man had a gun at one stage. But when he stepped out that taxi, he no longer had it. I'm not saying who, but I was in the forces. In Northern Ireland, I had a well-known politician who is now, but at the time, he was a terrorist. In my sights, I could not kill him because he wasn't pointing a gun at me. The Lord stated to the army that you can only kill if he is going to kill you. He was not having the gun, so that's where the problem lies. Is forget the fact that he had the gun. We all know he had a gun in a taxi, but the second he got rid of that gun, then there is no way they were allowed to shoot him, and that is why they've got to start doing things.
We're going to end with a text. Yep. Thanks, Greg. Thank you. I'm a female firearms officer. I can't believe that people truly believe the officer shot him on purpose, knowing what you would go through afterwards. Suspended, family problems, court cases, etc. No firearm officer in their right mind would shoot somebody because they could. I would doubt the officer had heard of Mark Duggan until about an hour before the operation, and to think he would go and randomly murder him is just unthinkable. And of course we need to counter the caller who said that the black community should apologise. That was an appalling generalisation. Strong feelings and strong words this morning, understandably. Thank you for listening.